Yo, what's up, man? This is Culture Uncut, man. This is when we come together to have real conversations that move our culture forward. Uncut conversations that might piss you off, conversations that might make you mad. I have my two co-hosts, my brothers, man. I have Nasir Young. Go ahead, say something to the people, bro.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? Homes with Nasir. Definitely follow me on Instagram. If you're looking for anything real estate related, I am your resource, and I'm definitely going to be bringing real estate to this podcast as we rebuild the city.
Then my other brother, who I'm not going to say what you look like. What's up, bro? How you feeling? Andrew.
What's happening,
Drewskii.
Yes, sir. What's happening, everybody? I'm Andrew Nelson, Drewskii, whatever you want to call me, and I'm gonna be bringing a little bit of anything, man. I think I got a wide mix of a little bit of a lot of things to bring, man. I got a military background, just like Nasir. I got a business background, political background. Did a little bit of time as an adjunct. I'm a big time nerd, so I dabble a little bit of all around. So I'm excited about adding and advancing the conversation about culture uncut. Definitely excited.
Listen, I'm excited. I'm excited for this show. All right, so let me start off where we were last week. I want to apologize, right? I want to apologize to Nasir, right? First of all, because when we were talking about doing this podcast, he mentioned something, I mentioned something, and maybe I allowed my emotions to take over. And last week I called somebody out, and I didn't really mean to do that. So I apologize to him. He who shall not be named. I apologize for the way I responded to the person that was in the comment, and that won't happen again. I promise you that won't happen again. You see me over there, right? That will not happen again. And I want to thank Andrew for being available when I called him 6 o'clock in the morning, right, to have a conversation. Me and Nasir was on the phone, and I understand. You feel me? My brothers was holding me accountable and trying to get me to tone it back a little bit, right? Because we can't get things to move forward if we're constantly complaining about the way they were, right? So we had to have solutions and not problems. So thank you, brothers. I appreciate y'all. Man, let's get into this, man. This is Culture Uncut, and we are having uncut conversations. And we were actually having a conversation before we started the show, and I just said, come on, man, let's rock out with this conversation. So Nas, put your question out there, the question that you had, and shout out to everybody in the city that's doing great things and continues to move the city forward the way that they know how to do it.
So I mean, the conversation we were having before this was basically about the role of the business owner in the city of Chester, and should they be donating to organizations in the city to help move the city along. I have my opinions, and everybody on the call has their opinions, and so I'll kick it off with my opinion, and then obviously we'll have some discord. First and foremost, I'm going to say the chief responsibility of the business owner is to provide a service and provide it well. And so at the bare minimum, if they are doing that, right, they're at least doing what they should be doing. And we all know businesses, right? They got crazy hours. You never know when they're there. So at that point, you're not doing the service that you need to do, right? Like you closed every Wednesday, or you're closed from you sell food and you close during lunch hours. Like, what are we doing? Right. So like, if the business is doing the service that it's supposed to provide, then that's the first thing where I have no qualms. The second thing I would say is, are they paying their taxes on time? Are they at least trying to do the bare minimum of paying the service that like helps fuel the city? Those are my two things. And like at the bare minimum, if you're doing that, then you are doing your job as a business owner. But we have other opinions, and so I'm gonna kick it over to Drew.
All right, so listen, my opinion don't differ, right? I agree that's the job of a business, right? You're supposed to make money, right? That people start a business to make money. I agree with that through and through. I'd never argue that. I also just want to present that it's nothing wrong with the community demanding that this business be a corporate socio-economic partner. It's nothing wrong with that either, because the house or the city or the municipality, whatever the entity is that's housing said business, can put whatever terms on it that they want. If they want to say, like, listen, every month or every quarter, I want to see y'all giving back where you making donations to local nonprofits or something. If they say that and that business wants to remain active and profitable in that area, it'll be in the business's best interest to go ahead and acknowledge at a minimum and look to provide, because otherwise the community has the ability to say, okay, we're gonna boycott you with our dollar. So I think that if the goal is for the business to make money, they got to make money with whatever terms they're given. And I think that that's what the brother K Hunt was doing. I think he was trying to lay out terms. In politics, they call it a community benefit agreement, right? A CBA. Now, this ain't a contract per se, but any business doing business within that community, the community make the terms with which that business does business.
I mean, I agree with it to a degree, right? Like, one of the things I challenge people to do when I was in the city, right? I lived in a neighborhood where like 70% of the houses, they had oil-based heating, right? And then on a given day, I noticed there was like 3 different oil companies pumping oil into the houses. And they're all paying different rates, obviously, right? Each company has their different metrics. And so I started to walk around the neighborhood and I challenged everybody. I said, hey, you're buying oil, your neighbor's buying oil, they're buying oil. Instead of paying these varying rates, lobby together, drive the rate down and say, we're going to have one servicer, best offer gets the contract. And so now you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping your community. Yeah. I agree with those types of metrics. The problem I have is when we say we're going to boycott a business for not donating. It's like, well, you don't necessarily know the metrics that I'm generating for my business. And you also don't know my family situation. So then it's like, you're mad at me for not donating. But if I'm barely making a net profit and I still got to support my family, and now I have to deal with the fact that you're challenging me to support my business because I'm choosing to spend it on my family, it's like, that's where I kind of got to draw the line. It's like, if I'm in a position to donate, I will. But you can't assume I am if I'm not, right? So it's like,
well, so you saying I can't though? I'm saying as a consumer, I can do whatever I want. You don't dictate the terms with which I make my money as a business. I mean, as I spend my money. So what I need you to, I guess what I'm really saying is there's a give and a trade, because your perspective from a business owner is not wrong, right? Because you do got to worry about your bottom line, but you also got to worry about the person that feeds your bottom line. They both your problems. Now, you could say till you blue in the face you don't agree with it, but if a group of customer bases do, you trumped, bro. Right? See, and that's what it's going to come down to. This ain't about right or wrong. This is about behavioral economics.
That's kind of like GameStop, right? So right. So when they was like, hey, look, don't let GameStop collapse. Everybody pump your money in and we're going to take the money back. To a degree, I can understand why that is effective and why you should potentially strategize to do it. But as the business owner, instead of potentially donating to that cause, I may try and pump more money into the business and or service so that it's so good you don't have a choice but to benefit from utilizing my service, right?
And like, if you have a service that has like an inelastic demand, then you could do that. But we talking about right? We're not talking about oil companies. We're not talking about water companies. We talking about stores that come a dime a dozen, barbershops that come a dime a dozen, right? Like that's what we talking about, local businesses where like y'all already got to compete for market space.
Hey, I'm a challenge you on the barbershop though, man. Folks is more loyal to Nate Barber than they own women, so I don't know. That's pretty elastic.
I agree with that. But I also know that logic is particular to one demographic.
For sure.
That demographic, I'm guessing the one you're referring to is the one that makes up 13% of the population.
Absolutely.
So when we think about businesses giving back to organizations in their community and demanding that they do so, I remember back in the day, 2J's used to always sponsor a biddy team, right? They would post a picture up with the team, all that stuff. We don't see that anymore, right? That's what we don't see. We got a M&A's, we got a whatever, and that's because those stores are not owned by people that are from the city, but the money that goes in it is our money. The food stamps that go in it come from us, right? So it's like, how can we not go to them and say, listen, man, we need Biddy, we need Biddy up and running, we need Biddy to become as powerful as it possibly can, we need Biddy to be able to get their own space so they can play their own basketball games, we need to be able to buy a basketball, not just one basketball court, the center that has maybe 6 or 7 basketball courts, a track going around that whole area, a pool downstairs. This is what we need for our future, for our children. Why can't we do that, right? What's wrong with doing that?
I would even challenge you to say that, like, we can put this on the business, but if I'm being frank, I would put that on the citizens and, more importantly, the local government, right? Because what we know is Biddy has been a pillar of the city since forever. So if Biddy ain't got a place to rest his hat, everybody in the city should feel like a part of that solution, right? I played in Biddy. You know what I mean? And the fact that we putting them the business owner now,
again, brother, everybody.
You feel me? Everybody. Like,
right, meaning that businesses gonna pay their fair share. So when K Hunt making that post, it was very much logical, rational, and in line. Because the reality is that all of these businesses, they've been here growing just like us. And if businesses are entities like our federal government says, then they included in that statement of everybody. And furthermore, businesses got a lot more revenues that they could do than a regular household, because a business could write off that charitable contribution up to a percentage of all of their profits, and those that's going to be a much higher potential than a regular everyday household.
I mean, that's tough, and I think that I'm not disagreeing with that, but I would challenge it to say that rhetoric is what stops the small guy, the regular household, from giving up $1, from giving up $5.
Because every household that got a kid playing Biddy already giving up dollars.
Already paying the $75
to benefit just their one kid. Like, I was on sports teams, right? There's been times where, like, you know, there's a parent that can pay, because if you split the pie evenly, each kid for these various like organizations, in some cases with the uniform, all the expenses for going to the event, right? Yeah. That bill can add up to like $3,000 to $2,000, right?
When you playing Biddy, did you do tagging?
I was just about to get to tagging. So then,
because the community engages, the community get their money, but the businesses need to as well. Stop trying to give them a pass, bro. Is all I'm saying. You want to get pushback, and I'm saying that they're included in everybody. The community is out here supporting Biddy. The community doing it, right?
I don't necessarily
part of the community is businesses, and it's a bunch of businesses in this community right now that don't give anything.
I don't necessarily know if I would refer to it as a pass, right? Because a pass would imply that they need to be on the hook. I more or less would consider it an optional omission. Like, am I choosing to make this charitable contribution, right? Like,
so you saying that people shouldn't apply pressure for their best interest? Is that your position?
I'm not arguing that. I'm arguing that apply the pressure where the pressure is needed. I don't necessarily think the pressure is the business. I think the pressure should be the government.
So,
right? And
really, you saying that they should organize a plan that really pushes the cost right back on themselves, because the government is ran by the citizens paying taxes.
Not necessarily. So when we talk about pushing pressure on a business, right? I like to think about boycotting, right? And so one of the ways that we were powerful in boycotting is we identified a business that was, you know, mistreating or marginalizing Black people. We looked at the community in totality and said, how do we effectively strategize against them? And so typically what you would see is, like, if there's 2 or 3 grocers in a city, right, and one grocer is mistreating Black people, then we collectively decide we are going to boycott this and beef one up to the point where we destroy their revenues. I don't think that any group in Chester, like business, is saying we don't want to benefit Chester. I personally don't think the margins are probably there for them to necessarily be donating all the time. I will challenge. Hold on, wait, but two things. I will challenge the standard household to say, can the standard household donate $5? Right? Because there's 33,000 citizens in Chester. If just a 30% decided I'm going to give up $5 a month, that would generate somewhere around $50K from the citizens alone. That is enough to start the process to buy back the block. So if we're going to challenge the business owner, we have to challenge ourselves in the same fashion. Where's your $5?
So I agree with that 100%. And I think that they should, when they're in the process of tagging, maybe they should have better ways to get the community with the $5. I don't think that. I think that the more accurate thing should be like it's like 11,000 households, and we should base it off of that.
That's fair. That's fair. There's about 12,000 households that are currently in, like, people are living there. So I agree.
So I think that's the better math that works. Now, with that being said, I agree 100% that we should put the same challenge on the community to do that. Yes, absolutely. But I don't see what the difference between boycotting because the buses was making black people sit in the back and boycotting because you continuously drawing money out of our community without any give back. I think that they're both the same kind of social like disregard, right? And I think that they both should have equal attention and strategy, because I don't believe that saying that black people got to sit in the back of the bus is more harmful than continuously building businesses off the back of our communities with no give back. I think they're equally harmful.
100%. I mean, I would also challenge to say, and this probably would be my last point, because I think I made most of the points I had for the topic, is as much as we can say the business should donate, I would equally say and challenge that the citizens should support more than just this idea that they're spending their money. I haven't seen a post from anybody say Showells was busting last night, right? Like, I haven't seen nobody go walk into what's another spot that's well known in the city, JNS, and be like, yo, next time you out at 12 o'clock at night, you need to run in there and get some. I'm just making points here to be like, you want me to donate to something when I don't necessarily feel reciprocal love. I feel like in terms of like food establishments, the only spot in the city of Chester that like you got our hearts and souls like thick and through for the most part is 2J's. I mean, not 2J's, Just Pizza. But even them, they just changed leadership. So I don't know how that's about to turn out. Right. Like,
and Just Pizza, maybe the reason why they got the hearts through and through is because Just Pizza was always willing to donate.
But people was always willing to talk up Just Pizza. Like, we'll say Just Greasy, but
what I'm saying is that they're probably directly proportionate. I don't think that it's exclusive. I think that it's because of their willingness to be community partners is why they were talked about. I don't think vice versa.
Do you think it'd be fair if we said, let's lead with that? And right, that's changing the narrative of the relationship as well. Whereas instead of going at somebody with salt, let's go at them with honey. And be like, yo, let's remember, Showells has been holding us down over town for years. Let's support Showells and make it a campaign. I don't know, but to ask somebody,
effectively what was said. The post was that we need to start supporting the businesses that actually give back and boycott the ones that don't. That was the whole gist of it, right? So I think that you agree, from what I hear.
I think to a degree. I would say if I'm supporting someone, you should support me. But ultimately, I would still rest on the notion that if I'm providing a service and paying my taxes, I'm at least doing what I should be doing as a business owner. And so it is my option to then donate back to the city, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't know my metrics.
Option to spend how they so desire.
That's fair.
If they do not agree with the business's ideology, then they could show it in the best way by saying, I shall not dine there. That's all. I mean, but businesses got to know that, right? Like, no, a business could stand 10 toes down, but at the end of the day, they're only going to be as good as their customer base.
That's it.
And it's either they're going to live or die on that cross.
Yeah, I think it was more or less about the ownership of businesses that we have in the city aren't people that are from our community, right? And so because they're not from our community, they take our money and take it to their community, right? And then they come back, and then the cousins come back and run the store, then the uncles come back and run the store, then the nephews come back and run the store, and they've been doing that for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And I think that now we have a group of people that realize that, yo, y'all taking our money outside of the community. The dollar's not circulating in our community at all, right? And when we do have small business like Holmes Hoagie, when we do have Solo Subs, when we do have Everybody Eats and Nerds Kitchen, Nerds Family Kitchen, when we do have black businesses, we already know that they're going to do these things. They're going to give back. They're going to help out. So we got to be there in their support to support them, so we can keep doing this. We can keep this money circulating in our community, and it grows. I'm trying to tell you, it grows. It helps to do that. So
I'll challenge that just real quick, and I don't necessarily disagree with what you guys are saying, but I would push back and say, just as much as we're challenging them to create business and support the city that your business is in, I still, for the life of me, don't think, well, why doesn't someone from Chester think of a business that they can implement in one of these neighboring towns and pull the money from their town, right? But hear me out. Identify something that neighboring town needs and provide a service. Last time I checked, within like a 15-mile radius, there are no fine dining establishments outside of Chester, right? The best you might got is like Stingers, and that's not fine dining. It's just dining, right? So like we know people in the city can cook, create an elegant soul food spot, right? And then white people going to eat soul food. I don't care what you say. Like everybody loves soul food. Now you might say, oh, I can't do too much of it because it's not healthy. But if you create a fine dining establishment that is soul food outside of the city, you will get clientele. Period. And then take that money and put it back in Chester because that's where your heart's at.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Go ahead.
So once upon a time, long time ago, started a business with a couple of partners where the math was good, solid business. We had a import export with some sneakers, very profitable. The profit margins were like 65%, minimal debt on the company. Now looking at it, as far as what I understand, it would have been $200K per year salaries co-signing on the loan. We went to 5 different banks in the area, 5, with 5 denials, with no apparent reason. None. I have a home loan in good standing, car loan in good standing, private loans in good standing, $20-something thousand credit card line in good standing, right? But why can't I get approved for this business loan? Now, I think that it's easy to say that we start a business in another neighboring community and do that. And I think you're right? But I think it's not taking into account that there's other factors at play that make it not so easy. It's just not as simple as an idea, even a good one.
I mean,
I call them.
So what we know is that most small businesses, not to say that SBA loans and loans for banks are not available and that are options that people utilize, but statistics suggest that most small businesses start from the equity within your house, right? And so first and foremost, and I'm always going to tie back to real estate. As a citizen in the city of Chester, prioritize structuring your life around acquiring real estate. And then we're going to talk about the trade-off from bouncing between or leaving Section 8. And that's a whole nother issue. But we have to at least acknowledge that the lion's share of how businesses that start from the equity in people's houses. And so if we are not prioritizing getting houses, then we're not prioritizing changing the circumstance.
Let's go with that, right? So you got a house in Chester. You do your thing, you work hard, you go get your house. I don't know, $150,000 house. Live in it for a couple of years. Let's call it 7, right? How much equity can you borrow against to start a small business on your house now?
You said how many years that I own the house?
7. You've been in this house that you bought for $150,000 in Chester 7 years ago. Right now, today, you got a business. You want to go start a fine dining business. You could do some quick math. Do they got enough money to put their house up for equity?
So no, 7 years is not enough, right? But I would still challenge and say this is when we have to be strategic, right? So P, real quick, can you hit us with the market analysis? All right, so market check. Just looking at the real estate across Chester, right now we've seen a house sale on the 15th of January, and that was Gray Street, 213. It sold for 210, right? And that was a duplex. Right? And so, generally speaking, that was $156 a square foot. This is public knowledge. We can look this stuff up. We got to be strategic. The second point, house sold on Curlin Street. That's a 5-bedroom. I think it was a 2-bath that sold for about $125 a square feet. It sold for $260, and that was on February 4th, right? And then another home sold on the east side on 25th Street, $192 a square foot, and that sold for $244, and that was on the 7th of January, right? And so there are margins, there are things that can be made in Chester. The problem is how we strategize it. And so if I was somebody who in 7 to 10 years was looking to start a business, and I know I need to potentially pull some money out of the real estate, I would make a play for a duplex, right? I would make the play for the duplex and say, hey, I'm going to live in one side, work the other side out. I'm going to capitalize my homestead to reduce my tax burden, right? And then I'm going to look at my amortization schedule. I'm going to strategize that other unit and be like, hey, this unit is making me $13K. My mortgage is somewhere around 2. Right, I've reduced how much I have to spend, right, in terms of my own cost of living, and any money that I generate, I have the option to either invest it in something that can generate a high return or put the money back into my amortization schedule, right? And so that's the challenging part when we talk about, are we going to have enough equity in 7 years? Likely no, because the bank's going to eat first. They're going to charge you a bunch of interest, and you're going to pay little in paying down that principal. So the goal then is to try and eat the principal as fast as possible so I can change the amount that I'm paying every month with a higher principal and less in interest. It's challenging, but like we have to be willing to play the long game. And more importantly, we have to be willing to work together, right? So the challenging part then is, well, if I'm on Section 8 now, if I buy this house, I'm no longer able to do Section 8. That's fine. You strategize it with a partner. Right. And so this is the uncomfortable part. Everybody wants their own house. Everybody want to live by themselves. I had a roommate the first 4 years of being in the military. You know what I mean? That was a conscious decision where I was like, look, I had my first house in the military. It was a rental, right? The rent was $1,600. I went and found 2 other roommates. They paid $500. I paid $600. I took the master bedroom. It is what it is. Right. And then I was saving money to buy my first duplex. And then you know what I did when I got the duplex? I kept those same roommates. Now I own a building. I'm renting one side out, and they're paying me rent to live in the unit with me. Now I'm eating. I'm making money on the other unit. I only spend $50 for the building at that point, right? And that's utilities included. So then it's like, we got to be willing to take the sacrifice and develop the long range goal.
Right. And that concept's called house hacking, right?
It is called house hacking, my guy. but for sure. So if you want to learn these strategies, you got to be willing to go into these communities where the resources are there, right? I went 2 years listening to Bigger Pockets, right? And just eating it up like a sponge, reading books, right? You know what I mean? Going to the real estate meetups, learning as much as I can. I'm not necessarily saying everybody got to do that because you might not have the time to do it. But if you are from the city and you know who I am, you can find out how to contact me. Instagram, Facebook, my phone number's out there. We could talk about it. Speaking of which, small plug for myself. I am providing a financial literacy course. I've had the metrics of the course, but my social media advisor is revamping the way that the course looks. So the content's the same, but they're making it look pretty because I'm not a PowerPoint guy. So is what it is.
So I think that, so one of the solutions, right? Because the reality is that what you're talking right now, I agree with that. That concept is the same as that concept I tell people all the time. And my house is currently house hacked. And I want to do the same exact thing, wash, rinse, repeat over and over and over again, right?
100%.
So I think it's a very much genius concept. But I also know that I have access to capital that regular people don't have. I have a VA loan.
VA loan. Yeah, I knew he was going to hit that. Yep.
So the moral of the story is that I think that the information that we have to offer is solid. I just think we need to get it to our people. So this is really good that we're talking about this. I want to add one more thing in. So to your point where we got to rethink and strategize on how we do this. I often tell people that I think that a good idea is to utilize the concept of tiny homes. And a lot of people get a little bit weirded out with tiny homes because of how it sounds initially, right? But what I like to tell people is like, think about it. A lot of people say, oh, I don't want to get a house. I want to get an apartment and start small, right? The reality is that that's still pissing away money when we live in a capitalistic nation, right? Rents are going to continue to rise every single year. You'll never build equity and you'll never see that money again. A tiny home gives you the flexibility as far as cost is concerned, like moving into an apartment, while giving you the material gains from capitalism while owning your little small piece of the pie at an affordable apartment rate, right? You get an apartment style cost with home value that's transferable, right? That you could then flip that up to the next move, right? And it just makes affordability be a little bit better. And I believe that with Chester's economic issue, where it's just a significantly amount of concentrated low and income affordable houses, it makes comps a struggle, right? Which is kind of what I was alluding to earlier, where I gave the $150,000 house to 7 years. What I really wanted it to do was reveal the concept that even in the best case scenario, right, after 22 years of amortization, where now most of your payments are going right to principal, you still won't have enough money to really get a really significant business loan against your house. And that's really what I wanted to make. Like the economic pie has been intentionally shrunk for specific communities. Chester is one of them, right? So it's not like we're dealing with conditions that are just circumstantial. They were intentional and they were created. So I think that we have to be just as intentional and just as creative to try to reverse said effects. And we're not operating in a time where we have federal protections like we once had either. So there's that.
Hey, 100%, man. And I'm glad you added this idea of the VA home loan. I got 2 points to that. One, everyone under the age of 35, or I think the standard is 36 now. 36 has the ability to enlist and or commission into the military, and that bag is out there for anybody to get. You pass the test, you get in, and you make some money, right? It is the most egalitarian system we have, even though the military has its quirks for all of us that served and that have melanated skin. We all know what that is. But the other point I would make too is I agree with you. I think the VA home loan is a powerful resource. And if I was on the side of fighting, let me take that back. I am on the side of fighting for reparations. But if we were going to entertain this conversation and talking to the federal government on what Black people deserve as reparations, I think that the descendants of slaves deserve their own home loan product. Structured in a way similar to the VA, but I think there are some nuances I would change to make it slightly better for the circumstances of the marginalized people. But we need our own loan product, point blank. You know what I mean? Like, that would be a huge resource to our community.
And some federal tax exemptions as well.
100%. 100%.
I agree.
And that's how you change the game.
The best way, right? I agree. A cash exchange wouldn't do much for us, but make that watered down, and we'd immediately lose the economic value anyway, right?
100%.
So tying it to houses and with tax abatements, I think is the right mix, where you control for inflation and you also guarantee true economic impact.
Now here's the kicker, and this is where the strategy comes in for marginalized communities. If we did get a VA, or not a VA, but a home loan product, what we can do is buy back the block, right? And I'm not saying don't buy houses in our own communities. I'm saying that if you buy overwhelmingly the houses in your community, you have now created a new way for them to marginalize you, because you've created a locale of these home loan products. And so now I can subjugate you based on your zip code, which we know we do that currently in the tax code, right? So if that product ever did become a thing, some people got to go outside the city and some people can stay in the city, but we all can't invest in the city. I just want to put that out there.
So Excellent point, right? So, and the reason why, because that ties into so many things that I think that we could pivot for. One of them is most important, right? So, what you're talking about is the diversification of risk, right? That's really that consistent theme that shows through and through. Now, here's a kicker I want to tie in, right? So, this concept on risk diversification, they've known it since for 60, 70 years. It's why they created projects, right? It was intentional. They said, don't diversify it because then they'll build up to the average. No. Aggregate it, and then we could build police stations, fire stations, trauma centers, hospitals, schools, and benefit off of the broken disenfranchisement. So what you're saying is do not perpetuate that cycle. Diversify, spread out, so that way there can't be any individual play that says like, oh, we got them all wrapped into one area.
100%. Because we don't need no more Tulsa, Oklahomas.
No, we sure don't. So thank you for that addition.
Yeah, for sure. Man, this is great dialogue. P, what you got for us, man?
I ain't got nothing, man. I'm sitting here learning, man. I'm sitting here bringing in the energy that y'all got, man. I love these conversations. I love to have smart brothers around me, man. Brothers that are thinking well beyond where I'm thinking at right now. I'm just community. I'm just sharing love and giving love and telling people that they can do, right? But you guys are giving them instruction on how to do, and that's important, right? That is highly important. So, we were talking about reclaiming and rebuilding Chester. And you kind of mentioned a portion of what your idea behind reclaiming and rebuilding is, right? The portion where families are giving $5 or coming together to group buy back the block, right? Because we're trying to do it individually and it's not working accordingly. You can have 5 or 10 houses on a block say, all right, this is the house we want to buy, this is how much the house is, we put in this money, this is how much we have. At the end of the day, we can all buy the house, we can fix the block, we can fix the house up and rent the property out, right? And then take that money in that comes in and go and buy another one, right? So explain what reclaiming and rebuilding Chester really looks like.
Well, I mean, the first thing I would start with, right, is like anytime you talk about bringing something together, especially in a marginalized community, the first thing we have to talk about is excess capital and access to capital, right? Access to capital, as Drew just talked about, is very challenging for the marginalized community. Excess capital is also challenging because if I got 2 kids to feed and I got a minimum wage job, I ain't got but so much to kind of give. And so we have to talk about sacrifice, right? That is, and in some cases, it's not just sacrifice. It's like, yo, you telling me I gotta get this $5 up and now I can't get this pack of hot dogs type of situation. Like that is a real scenario.
Poverty is real.
Right. And so I'm not making light of the situation, but you have to put the numbers out there and you have to put the possibility of what can happen because everyone is not that strapped for cash. Right. So that's the first thing we have to acknowledge. The second thing I would say is you have to put the right people in leadership positions to steward the money in a way that makes sense for the community to thrive. Right. And so I'm a firm believer in nonprofits coming in and doing what they do best, right? Helping the city. But when we talk about buying back the block, the strategic plan has to be around helping licensed professionals that know how to renovate a home, electrician, carpenter, HVAC, all those things, right? Work with local organizations and we go in and strategically map out how we want to array our city. And so this is the challenging part, right? Because me and P and Andrew, we had a conversation about this. I stand on one side, and they so much don't agree, right? But if we did have an organization, just hypothetically speaking, and this is where my rhetoric gets a little challenging, and I'll call it out. If we did have an organization willing to steward the money and buy the block back, I would target the West Side on where I'm going to renovate houses. Because what we have to do is be able to move people efficiently across the city. Now, granted, we can renovate all throughout the city, but I'm saying the west side specifically because I know there's a lot of dilapidated houses on the west side. On the other side of Chester, you have Sun Village, right? Sun Village has a lot of abandoned homes, a lot of them, right? And it's also strategically located to Eddystone, Walmart. You go further up the block, you got Tennicum, you got a marina, right? It's sitting close to water, right? And so this will be my strategic footprint to build my city back. It would be Sun Village, right? And it's not too far from Overtown. That's already on the up and up. It's thriving, right? Sunville, I would literally advocate to go in and talk to the homeowners, right? Talk to the renters and say, hey, if we renovated a home on the west side and it looked like this, would that be something you're interested in? Would you move there? Right. And we're not going to nickel and dime you. We're going to give you something good. You're going to have your quartz countertops, your shaker cabinets. You're going to have some LVP flooring. You're going to have heat, central air, all that. But would you move? If they're okay with moving, let's move them out. Let's find a contractor willing to rezone Sun Village. Right. And this is a challenging part because then we got to talk about the margins. There's some money there. Right. But the other thing that is unique about Sun Village is right next to Widener. And so now we pull money from the Widener students. Right. Last time I checked, Widener students, college students, they love some coffee. Right. Are we making a strategic play to make a multi-use space, apartment buildings, condos, right? A grocery store, your Starbucks, so on and so forth, making a place for them to go instead of going to Brookhaven, right? To go to Starbucks and go to Chick-fil-A, come to the city, right? Can we get a Whole Foods, right? Mm-hmm. Are we structuring the argument and creating the plan around capital gains? Because that's what investors want to see, right? And providing them the roadmap to see that the market is here, right? Because if these Widener students got an option from going to Giant and Aldi's or whatever else is in Brookhaven, right, versus going to your Walmart, your Whole Foods, and your Starbucks that's in walking distance, they're going to go there. And so it's really making the argument, strategically laying it out, right? And then as a community, we got to be willing to work together. That's the challenging part. I think that's the most challenging part, to be honest. My bad, I went on a tangent, but
I like that. I like that move better than the way you tried to sell it to me before.
Same.
You just gave that whole move so much heart and compassion that I have no choice but to agree with that move happening. You see how I just changed it a little bit?
It was the rhetoric.
But
the rhetoric changed.
Because you came in with bulldozers ready to go. You said, get these motherfuckers out of here. Like, oh. And now I completely support that, right? Because number one, we're giving people a place to live that's better than where they live now, right? That has never happened before in our community, right? So when the gardens closed down, not really closed down, but when it started to become dilapidated and things started to fall apart, they started moving, Section 8 started moving people out to the east side, right? All on the east side, East 24th Street, 21st Street, all up on the east side, and St. James and Wallingford, all over there. But it wasn't really better because they moved them to a spot where they were now enclosed in, and they were there with people that they might not have liked, right? So guess what happened? Crime rate go up. Now we got people getting shot, we got people getting robbed, we got people getting jumped, we got people getting beat up, we got people getting stabbed, we got people doing everything, and now everything goes crazy, right? So if you're saying you're going to move them and put them in nice places and explain to them what's about to happen and how things are going to move forward, I'm all behind that. I ain't got no problem with that. But that other way that you was doing it, just coming in and sending them wherever they go, you feel me? Yeah.
Sometimes I do cut straight to the point without giving out the word of recipe. That's my own bias. That's my own.
Now I agree with you, and that might be the military in you. You feel me? I ain't got time to explain my plan. This is my plan. It's gonna work.
Knows it. Drew knows. I'm not about to tell you everything. This is what I need you to do. I need you to execute. That's it.
And I said that to you. I said maybe it's just your experiences. My experience is this, man. I love my city. I love my city from the people at the bottom all the way to the people at the top. If we all loved each other that way, we can get so much done. If we stop judging people that don't have this or kids don't have that, and we just gave it to them or we just helped them get to the water, you feel me? I'm sure they would drink. What's the saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And these kids will drink the whole Mississippi River, bro, because they're thirsty. If you take them there, you show them how they can help. If we decide to take 20 kids from CCSA and 20 kids from Chester High STEM, and we gave them the fundamental understanding of what real estate can do, buying real estate, how it can help your business, I guarantee you at least 20 of the 40 would want to invest time in the real estate. They will want to go to school, get their trade, talk to their homie. All right, man, you go for carpentry, you go for plumbing, you go for heating. We're going to go in here, we're going to buy this house, we're going to buy this shell, we're going to fix this joint up. And it's simple now, it's done. You feel me? And now other kids see it and other kids want it. But for so long, the only thing they saw after school was drug dealers. Only thing that they saw was the rap videos. The only thing that they saw was nothing.
What
were they supposed to see? What were they supposed to do after seeing that? Y'all brothers went away and got to traveling the world and was in the military and sir, yes, sir, and doing all that stuff and experiencing and being shown and then giving VA loans to buy homes, and you come back talking about you can buy a home too. Motherfucker, I can't. Nigga, I ain't got the credit to do that. Like, so it's understanding how to do this. How does it work? And, I'm all for that plan now. So let's go.
So last point I'll make before we transition, one of the pieces I left out, and there's a ton of pieces that I glossed over the plan. I gave like a very high view of how it could work. But talking about local government, because I always like to tie it back to government. When creating this plan, the local government has to be empowered to say, look, we do believe in this mixed use space, but we're going to challenge you to say that this thing can work and still allocate a percentage of the units that are in this new space to Section 8. And a lot of people will say it can't be done. I will argue adamantly to say that it can, because it's been done in Silver Springs, Maryland, right? There are percentages of
if anybody says it can't be done, they're just lying.
100%.
Flat out lying.
And so I'm going to move you out with a plan to move a percentage of you back in, but then also have a percentage of you live in fully renovated houses throughout the city, and or outside of the city. Because again, we don't want to invest all our money in the city. We have to strategically map out putting places outside the city to give our people legs to grow.
Right. No, that's a fact. And
so how would you be able to pick the people that will be able to come back in? Would you say it'd be based on how you treat the new space that you move into? Right? Would there be somebody to go through and check the space and make sure, the kids aren't tearing the place up, it ain't holes in the wall, you feel me? Mom is actually cleaning up and doing what she's supposed to do. She's being neighborly, right? Could you ask the neighbors, like, what would be the right?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but you would have to create some type of metrics. I don't necessarily know what I would roll out because I haven't put enough thought into it, but like there would have to be something to weed out the bad apples, right? Because everybody ain't good tenants. I mean, and the last thing we need, this was one of Douglas' positions. It was like, I'm not saying I don't want black people to come north, but I don't need all the black people from down south to come north, because we have a culture. We have somewhat of an expectation. And if you come from the South and you are a newly freed slave and you don't have any degree of the acumen that I have as a black politician, because that's what essentially what he was, you're going to be more of a disservice than a help. And I do want to help you, but I can't help you that fast. You're going to come up and hurt the movement. And it's a shitty thing to say, because like most people looked at him from that position and was like, oh, you're a sellout. You don't want to help everybody. But it's like, you don't know the battles I'm fighting now. You ain't been in these rooms. So then it's like, I'm not saying we're not going to make a plan for you, but timing is crucial, and strategizing is even more important. One of the things we do in the military, right? Like when we fight, we ain't that great, but what we're going to do is we're going to put ourselves in a position where we're fighting 3-1. Like, the fight's never going to be fair. As an American soldier, I'm telling you, we're not making the fight fair. We're going to win. And like, we have to adopt that mentality, right? Let's look at the plan And when we strategize it, we are firing on all 4 cylinders. The plan can't be fair. We are trying to cut people down at the jugular. If you ain't from the city of Chester, you ain't with us. You shooting in the gym, bro. It's that simple, right? Like, and so everybody's going to have their turn, but you can't want to rush the door and get yours first. Is what I'm saying.
Drew.
No, listen, I agree. A combined attack approach is the right way. Everybody got to understand. Now, I don't really agree with the concept of gatekeeping like Frederick Douglass. You know what I mean? So there's my pushback for that. I don't agree with that, but I also understand the sentiment, right? I don't agree with it, but I understand the sentiment.
On Culture Uncut, we will have different segments, right? We have a segment called where is it? The People's Question, right? And literally we have one. We have a people's question. And the question is about police in the community. And how do we improve the relationship between police and our community? Now we have a young brother who, Shep Gardner, who's going through the police academy and doing all that stuff. He's going to become a police officer. I hope that's able to get other young black men to want to be police officers in the city of Chester. I'm rooting for him, right? I want him to succeed. I'm glad I'm not out there in the street anymore. I ain't got to worry about him, pulling up and locking me up, because that's typically how it happens. But he has a job to do and I have a job to do. And I was out there, and that's to avoid the police, right? But how can the community improve, and also how can the police department improve the relationship with the community? Nasir?
Hey, Drew, I was going to say, Drew, you can cook first, because I don't want to take all the mic. I can cook on this one, but Drew, cook first.
All right, so when we had the preliminary conversation, I was going through my mind about it, and I heard some echoes of stuff I agree with, community policing and all of that. But then, so my weird brain started saying, like, all right, but what does that look like in play? And then I started going through the scenarios, and the only one that I think that really has to happen, and I got to be honest with you, man, I think that there will be no real true advancements in community policing until we have an open forum where the community can come up and have open dialogue with the police that police us, and there's some accountability and some questions asked and answered. I think that until that level of discourse plays out, the tensions are going to remain high. The distrust is going to remain high. And I think that those are the two things that we got to de-escalate, right? We got to de-escalate tensions. You can't look at every cop like they about to fucking kill you, and cops can't look at every human like they a fucking threat, right? So that shit has to be de-escalated off the rip. And then the other thing, like, there needs to be some level of trust established. And trust is best established through conversation and breaking bread. So I think there needs to be some kind of community forum that occurs where, if not anybody has access, then some super influential people in the community can come and act as representatives, right, to ask and answer hard questions, right? And the dialogue needs to be addressed, and that way we can have some kind of foundation of trust established and some kind of pathway that we could build on going forward. Because community policing without both parties hashing that thing out and actually having a common ground, it's a soundbite, right?
It sounds to me like you're asking for accountability on both sides.
Absolutely. But through conversation and breaking bread, like, it needs to be structured with intention, not just no forum where you got the cops sitting up high and then the audience in the bottom and then there's some back and forth. No, face-to-face, intimate communication, breaking bread, again, with intention, where both sides are asking hard questions. The shit we've all been wanting to know.
I think that works like this. Let's have a dinner, right? Let's invite the police. Let's sit a police at every table, You feel me? Around community members. Let's
Yep.
put a microphone in the middle of the floor. Let's have community members and police both come up there and speak their points. Let's listen, right? Let's listen to understand and stop listening to respond. Everybody want to listen to respond. Everybody want to hear what they don't like. We got to stop that, right? Because we're at a point right now in our culture that, and I say it every day, I say pay attention, right? Pay attention to what's happening. Really look at what's happening. Don't get in your bag and get in your feelings and get all emotional about it. Look at what's happening right now. I just rode from New York today, right? And on my way back from New York, guess what I saw? I had to see at least 50 brand new warehouses built over in Jersey. All of them are empty. All of them are empty. There was a person that decided to buy space, buy land, and build warehouses instead of buying homes, instead of building homes. Then I said to myself, well, with everything's going on, they have to put these people that they're deporting somewhere. Why wouldn't they put them in there? Right? So this is just my brain just leaking out of my head. And it was crazy how many I saw and how many locations. So for me, a community policing dinner, right? Let's come together with our police. Now, that's not all of them, but that's the high-ranking officials and a couple regular patrolmen, right? Don't take everybody. Because you can't take everybody off the floor, right? But go ahead.
So you said a couple powerful things. Drew opened up with one of the things I think is like phenomenal, right? Like have open dialogue. I would push back slightly, not to say that I disagree with the open dialogue. I think the open dialogue is perfect. But there was a thing that every unit in the military has this, right? When a high-ranking official in the military comes, snake in the grass. Everybody needs to know that this high-ranking official is on ground and we don't need nobody messing up, right? And so if we are about to have this dialogue, right, there's a pecking order, there's a ranking system to who we know is going to ask the right questions, and more importantly, ask the right questions in the way that they will be received, right? And so the private in the company is typically not the person to do that, right? And so the problem I have with the open dialogue is if we had this, how many privates, right, or i.e. people that have an opinion and their opinion is perfectly valid, but they don't know how to position the conversation in a way for it to be received well and to actually have the good dialogue. If we create a table with a police officer that may be on the fence about how they should navigate and they get pent up with three privates, right, it's going to hurt the cause. And that goes back to the dialogue I was talking about with Frederick Douglass. It's like, we do want to have these good conversations, but we have to have people that know how to navigate the space, have the conversation for the benefit of the public, right? That goes back to how local officials should be operating, right? You should be the voice of the people. And sometimes the people in position don't know how to be the voice of the people. That is not a dig at anybody in office right now. Let me just say that. Right?
Sounds like you're digging.
Right? But the point is, we got to be strategic in how we have those conversations. I think that is a phenomenal idea, and that's something that should be implemented. And the person in the room needs to be able to have the dialogue. I would also say that another thing that should be implemented, if you're on the police force in Chester, I think there should be some degree of a rotation where you have to spend time at Chester High, right? Like you have to spend time at the local school district and see these kids in their atmosphere, right? Don't put them on the streets, right? And I'm not saying that the atmosphere in these public school systems is perfect, by no means, any stretch of the imagination. But you got to stop humanizing the person. I mean, you got to stop dehumanizing the person and start to humanize them. And so I would even challenge it to say, let's compound Drew's idea and say, let's have that dialogue in the school district. And we educate the kids on how to have the dialogue, how to have this discourse, challenge the officer to do better, but accept that we are also making mistakes as well, and create a dialogue to create discourse and feed each other. But I mean, you can't expect somebody to police the city that don't love the city. They're not going to do it well because they're more afraid than they are wanting to help.
Right. So 100%. Now I'm glad you. So in the end, that's where we pretty much met. Because what I was gonna say was, I don't think we gotta have the right people in the room facilitating the conversation. I think we need to have the right people to translate, right?
Right.
The privates are gonna be the ones that are gonna speak the shit we need to hear, right? We just need to make sure that there's informed people that can be like, hey, listen, this is what private such and such means. Do that make sense, private such and such? You agree with that? Because the reality is that the privates are going to be the ones that's going to give us the most valuable information. The private is where the rubber meets the road. So I don't think it's going to be effective if we pick and choose, because the right voices are going to be trained to articulate and say the right stuff.
Hey, that's
necessarily the right stuff.
That's a fair critique, and I think that's a perfect meet in the middle. I will concede. I think that's a good one.
We would have argued on that drink. We would have sat on here and argued. That's why I love Drew being on this drink. I really don't think I need to be on this podcast anymore. I'm gonna stay in the back room and just handle all the other stuff, right? Because that's where I'm at. Like, a lot of people don't understand what it feels like to wake up and your heat don't work, and you haven't ate since yesterday. So you go outside to try to figure out a way to make $50-$20, right? You're not trying to do a lot, but hey, man, you just messed up some stuff. You just got locked up, right? Now you're fussing. Now you're mad. Now the police beat you up. They didn't have to beat you up, but they did, right? You know, sometimes they take out their frustrations on you. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's them being scared that causes them to act the way they do.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if
these conversations, it curbed that fear. At least that's what my spirit is telling me. And it will. I think it's important to break bread with each other. It's a certain magic that occurs when you eat with humans that it don't happen without that food. So
I second that for sure.
I've learned to come together with people that I don't like over food, right? And you know, I was better afterwards, and I actually listened to them because I was eating. We got to have good food though. I don't need no nasty food. So you know.
I agree with that.
Hey, small plug. Back to the food thing, right? Like local businesses. So if y'all hearing this local business, I challenge you to step up and say, I'm going to provide the space, or I'm going to provide the food, right? Let's get this conversation going. Now that's
we really need, and like I said, this show right here is what we need, because we're making plans for our community, right? And a lot of people can take these plans. They're not ours. We don't need to have them. We're just having babies and we're giving them out, right? But I think you know, we say 10 tables, 8 seats apiece, right? And try to put people in spaces to communicate, right? We put, like Drew said, we put somebody that can articulate what the privates are saying. We put the cop there, right? We put a pastor or imam. You were talking about pastors and imams, right? You were talking about that. So put them at a table. So we're talking about 8 different tables throughout, right? And just finding the people to do this, right? It's important that it happens, right? I think Jonathan Ross, we had a meeting not too long ago where we did this, right? And we brought some people together, and I think it was very good. But I said it's bigger to get outwards to our community, so our community understands, and so that people can say, yo, I need to be in that seat. I need you to write and say you want to be in this seat. You want to be here. Why do you want to be here, right? And if I feel like you just want to come in and create the drama, I don't want you there. But I get that people are hurt in this community. People have lost children in this community to police. People have lost lives, situations, family, money, everything because of the police. So I get why people will be mad. I understand why people will be mad. But we need to bring this together so we can have this conversation. And that's another way how we improve community and police in our community, right? So anything else, man? We got Chester Spotlight, man. We trying to reach out. I think I want to bring Commissioner Blackwell on. But before we do that, next week we have a guest, Rondé Hollis Jefferson. He's going to be here. He's going to talk about the great things that he wants to see for his community, the great things that he wants his community to be able to do, and how we need to get behind him, man. I'm behind him 100%. Listen, we had a conversation, and kind of a lot like this conversation. We mentioned going into the stores and asking them, not asking them, demanding that they start sponsoring sports or sponsoring the building of another location. I spoke to him and I said, man, you know how many brothers, you're from a unique club. You're an NBA player. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so you have people from your club, from our city. Why can't y'all go in the bank and get a loan to build well, what would that do? I think that would help Biddy, number one. Then you can charge and you can have, summer games and different things inside. You feel me? Like, it's not outside in the heat. It's not on the blacktop. You feel me? You can have AAU games, you have AAU tournaments. You can do that, right? And they have spaces in white areas to do that utilize our players, our skills to make them money. Why can't we do that in Chester? Why can't we build that place in Chester? And it doesn't take, I don't think it takes $50 million, but it might take a loan from a bank, and y'all can do that. Sign up, put a conglomerate together as 5 of y'all, and just go ahead and do it. Basketball and football players. We can put a football field out back. These are the things that we can do.
You know what I'm going to hit you with, P?
I know.
ROI, big dog. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a great idea, right? But we got to go back to if I take this loan, if I make this investment, I'm not saying it's not impossible, right? But the challenging thing with that concept is where is the return on investment? And I don't want to make everything about money, but when we talk about doing things and strategically mapping things out, the plan has to be able to generate a profit to support the loan that was taken out for the idea to begin with. And so when we talk about it, it's like numbers have to drive this conversation. But outside of that, like in terms of like the idea and the concept, 100% on board.
Yeah, I have great ideas. I just don't understand the ROI situation. I'm all about love, so let's do it.
It's the way to navigate around that ROI. Here go the thing.
That's where Drew comes in.
NBA players going to the bank and taking out a loan, they can go to their accountant and find out what their max charitable contribution could be from that year. They can pool that and utilize that contribution to develop Chester High's gym that can then house Biddy, that can then house AAU, right? Develop that parking lot right next to it so that way we can have adequate parking to house said games, right? And then the ticket sales can go back into the damn school district to make that program perpetual.
So with that being said, how many
ROI,
people?
that's his name. I'm gonna change his name.
So with that being said, how many people on this live are willing to put in the time, right, to write some strongly worded letters to these people, right? Get on Instagram, start dropping in the inbox, Facebook, start dropping.
Right, we got. I mean, I'm pretty sure all three of us got access to a paid version of AI that can do all of that shit for us. So that ain't about nothing.
That's fair, but it's even better when it's coming from a weight of people and not one person or one small.
That I agree with.
Right. So, like, how many people
on this live?
How many people on this live willing to go on their chat bot and jazz up something and send it to Kevin Durant? You know what I mean?
Can we just get it signed? Can we just go around and get it signed as opposed to people doing that, right? Knock on some doors and get some signatures. Isn't that the same as everybody writing their own letter?
It is, but it ain't. It is, but it ain't. It holds the same weight to say that multiple people care, but in terms of the consistency and like potentially annoying factor of getting your inbox lit up, it's just drastically different thing.
I agree with that 100%.
Okay.
One letter to a congressperson with 2,000 signatures is not the same as 2,000 phone calls to that congressperson's office.
100%. Light them up, bro. And I think that's another thing we don't do enough. Light these officials up. And I am not talking about Chester's politicians. I'm not talking about the mayor and the other members. I'm talking about hit up Delaware County elected officials, hit up the state reps, hit up the governor, like hit up people outside of your city. Because the reality of it is the people in the city and local government, they are working to try and improve things. They might not go about it the best way sometimes, right? They might miss some things, but they are trying, right? I think the problem is other people just ain't trying. So hit them up.
Absolutely. So that was people's question. Then we have Chester Spotlight. Like I said, next week, Rondé Hollis Jefferson will be here for the Chester Spotlight. We're going to talk to him about how he feels and what he sees and what he's trying to do in Chester right now. Listen, man, this is culture uncut, man. Like, I really think is Andrew and Nasir's show. I'm just going to stay in the background and just come up with the do's and don'ts and all that good stuff. But I love the banter between you guys. I love how your brains come together and create. And Andrew, I also love how you had Nasir change his whole plan, bro. Now he
ain't changed my plan, bro.
Now he have now he has sprinkles on his bulldozer.
Hey,
You feel what he talking about? He gonna tear everything down. Now he got sprinkles on the bulldozer, and that's all.
that was always the plan. I just ain't brief it like that. You know what I mean?
You definitely you did. Right. I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you said it the way how you really felt. Right, and that's what we need. We need more brothers that are willing to help their community. We need more brothers that are willing to give their brain to their community, their strength to their community, and just be supportive, man. I'm gonna support you regardless. You feel me? And I'm gonna tell you, no, don't do it like that. But if that's how it's got to be done, that's how it has to be done. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna tell him, I'm gonna talk to him. And I'm like, that's not Nasir's idea. It's not mine. I love you. No, I got you. Anything else, man? Come on, Drew. Give me something.
Hey, give a special shout out to the police chief, man.
Yeah. Police commissioner.
First black, it's a Black history fact, right?
Yeah, definitely.
First black woman commissioner, Chester, PA, Commissioner Blackwell. Shout out to her.
Yes.
She come as a guest in what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to her and see if we can get her to come through. Hopefully she has time. She gotta reach out. Right, and it doesn't have to. She doesn't have to stay for the whole show, but get her to come through either for the first or the last. You feel me? We'll break it down into sections.
She need to understand that we're fans. You know what I mean? Like we supporting this thing.
Well, a lot of people say, P, how can you be fans of the police? Well, first of all, if something happens, I gotta call the police. Somebody breaking my house, I gotta call the police. Somebody breaking my car, I gotta call the police. Something happened to my kid, I gotta call the police. So I don't have a problem with the police. I have a problem with the police when they pull up like they got a problem with me.
Right.
That's it. I'm not the culprit in this situation. And when I was the culprit, I pled guilty. I'm not paying a lawyer to go to jail. It's mine. I had it. Thank you. Give me my jail time. Let me go away. You feel me? But for everything bad that happens in our community is a result of someone not thinking things through fully. That's it. Right? And when you talk to somebody about their regrets and the things that they wish they could do better, they usually focus on what they did wrong. Right? And you can't knock a person for that. But and that's the kind of accountability I need from the police. So shout out to John Ross, man. That's my brother. We grew up together. What he's trying to do, and get police trained a certain type of way. But I think community policing starts with getting outside of your car, walking through a community, talking to grandma, because grandma gonna come to you and tell you, my grandson's out there. Can you go find him? Can you go talk to him? You know what I mean? Bring him back home. And you really bring him back home. You're not trying to lock him up, right? Now, if he gets caught with, 10 kilos, I understand that, right? You got to do your job. But, he's smoking a blunt, and he got a little pack on him, dump the pack out, step on it, and take him home to his grandma and tell him you're not going to give him another break. That's community policing. And that's what it was. That's what it was like. And they just took the pack. They ain't step on it. But that's what it was like when I was coming up. Yeah. Right. So, that's
they understood they needed the community to police. But somewhere we got away from that, and it was no longer about solving crime as much as it was as forcing compliance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that those conversations break down the barriers. And P, when I heard you say when people are like, oh, how could you trust the police? That's a fair sentiment, right? But all they simply saying is understanding the oppressive state that we've been in. Not because again, you hit the nail on the head. If some real shit go down, unless you got access to street resources, you call it 911. You feel me? So you're absolutely right. We definitely have a love-hate relationship with police that we don't want to acknowledge. But I'm here to acknowledge that hate wasn't just birthed out of nowhere. That shit
it wasn't.
It's a result of the context with which we have been forced to live in. So I will not acknowledge that, but I also do agree and understand that we got to be willing participants in this to make sure that we're not getting over policed. And the first step is having a commissioner from Chester, right? For Chester. And it showed when she got her at that city council meeting was real. It showed that it was a reception of community, that she was about community, right? And that's what's really going to change this tide in policing in our community. We got to be policed by our community. That's it. I'm gonna shut up because I
Nasir?
long.
Hey, I mean, y'all hit all the points I would hit. I mean, police by the community, which if anybody watching this hasn't picked up on, right, there is a route for kids that are seniors in high school to go to the police academy and become officers. There's a route for the guy that's struggling right now that might not have a job. Get in shape, go become a police officer. Same argument can be made for military, right? Be a part of these communities that is not only going to help yourself, but help the people you care for, period.
You don't like the narrative? Change it, is what I heard.
Let's go, man. Let's go. I want to thank you, brothers, for taking time out of your busy schedules to do this podcast with me. I know how much you love your community. I know how much information you want to pour upon them. Until next week, fellas. Until next week. Anything, y'all? Any closing remarks?
I ain't got nothing.
Until next week.
Nothing. Until next week, y'all. Be safe, be smart, and give grace. Peace.
Peace.